Aloha and welcome to Salt of the Earth. I'm Veruschka Normandeau and I'm a healing arts coach here on the Big Island of Hawaii. And today I have a wonderful special guest, Luz Aguirrebena. I'm going to have you speak. I don't think I've ever tried saying it. Anyway, welcome, Luz. Would you please introduce yourself and share with us a little bit about who you are and what special mission you are doing?
Thank you so much, Veruschka. It's such a pleasure to be here. Such an honor. It's been great working with you. My name is Luz Aguirrebena, and I'm sorry for the length of the name. It's a Basque name. What are you going to say? And I'm here. It's hard to say because there are so many things, but you want to resume it in one specific, I always have this passion for the root cause of things. What's the root cause of everything? What's the problem? And let's go to the root cause because that's the only place where you can find the solution. So one of the biggest missions on the planet right now, it's the debt liberation across the world. And it's the elimination of the Federal Reserve as an entity or institution that has literally controlled almost every single country in the world by taking over their central banks. And, we are finally getting to a point where since 1913, which is when, this control over the currency of every country, control over printing the money of every country was implemented. And I would say that we are at the end of that. We are about to have a debt liberation across the board, and we are about to embrace abundance and a new financial system backed up by gold and all of this everywhere in the world. The monopoly of the banking industry is about to die. So, that's mainly my main mission right now. It's to literally become aware that that's happening.
So what are you doing to facilitate this? Is there something specific that people should be aware of?
Yeah, there's many things that people should be aware of. Something specific, something specific is what's happening in Indonesia right now, which is a debt liberation already made into law across the banks in Indonesia, the 6 main banks, and across the world to eradicate debt, no more debt. So it's all happening underground, and some people know it's happening, some people don't know it's happening. But many people in the financial industry are very aware of the changes that are coming because we live in a society that's not sustainable, and it's the whole world that's not sustainable. So we're talking about in terms of change in the world, we're talking about the Agenda 2030 from the United Nations that was launched last year in September at the 70th anniversary of the United Nations, which is when the contract, the original contract that had been signed for 70 years, expired. So it is, in reality, what's happening is that many countries in the world have come together over the years, even though they've been courted and bullied into giving away their central banks and the right to print their currency and, you know, their resources and everything, you know, their sovereignty, are saying enough is enough. This is not sustainable. We're coming together and we are going to go back to, you know, to a gold value system and to, you know, a revaluation of the currencies based on gold and natural resources. So that's, you know, it is a huge thing because it's hard to believe for people that, you know, it's a slavery, you know, debt is slavery. And it's hard for us to understand, you know, at a very core level, why is it slavery, right? Because we're so programmed into, you know, you have to owe somebody something and, you know, you need money. The whole thing about the corporate world, you know, the corporate government. So, you know, when you're talking about what can we do, or there are many things that we can do, and basically what we're doing now is helping people with the certificates of debt liberation that have been written into law. I think it's February, right? It's February 4 of this year. I think it is. Yeah.
So this is already available?
Yes, it is available. It is available. This is, I think that where could we start to make it? The thing is that it is, the debt liberation is at a stage where the banks need to acknowledge it, and they are not acknowledged. Let's say, you know, you have a law that's been passed where, you know, everybody will be, every race, every debt will be erased, forgiven, start over, no more debt. And then every country and every bank or every corporation will receive an amount of money to reconstruct each one their country, and the banking industry to oh my God, I love the idea. The banking industry is not acknowledging, you know, this, and they are dilating the process as much as they can, because that's what they do best, is abstract. So the banking industry will receive also, what I was saying, I think it is $99 trillion in order to do restitution, basically, because we're, you know, we're starting from the standpoint that this money was created out of thin air, and we don't, you know, they have to restitute the debt. So what else? I don't know. You know, Veruschka, it's hard to start this conversation like right now, right there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the banking industry, you know, and its origins, because to me that says a lot about when you're talking about availability of the money, you know, or availability. We're talking about the East and the West coming together,
Mm-hmm.
and the perception of gold that comes from the East, of the gold, whether the gold is for the East and whether the gold is for the West, literally. You know, we are the only species, you know, the only people in the galaxy or galaxies, you know, that have to pay to live in the planet we live in. So the question is, how did we start this process? How did it start? How was it that we fell into this trap, you know, of paying? And how was it that the banking industry started? You know, the root cause analysis, right? How did it start? So the money, in reality, or the gold, or the availability and these funds come from King Solomon and the Templars. It goes way back. And so the question is, how did the first, you know, how did the banking industry start? And the other question to me is, how did it start, and were they doing usury then? Was the intention of the banking industry to engage in usury? Well, the answer is no. You know, the history is that when King Solomon died, and this is the connection with Indonesia, he had 500 wives. Obviously, he had thousands of children who were coming from those bloodlines that became the Templars, that are the Templars, which are the people that understand the gold, not as an element for greed, but more like an entity, more like an energy, a vibration, a frequency, and more like the blood of the earth, more like the alchemical power of gold.
Mm.
Because you know that through gold, you can do exo communication much easier. If you see those shamans that use gold, they use a lot of gold because that facilitates the communication through the Akashic records, or to what we call the hyper communication, which is, the connection with us out there, which is through ourselves, which is another story, but that's what I'm talking about. So the gold in itself has a lot of meaning. So King Solomon has thousands of children around the world that are continuing with the bloodlines of this understanding of the gold, and they are the keepers of the knowledge. So when he dies, he gives the trust to Queen Sheba. Queen Sheba is from Indonesia, and she takes the gold and creates the kingdom of Solo in Indonesia. And that's where she creates kind of like the headquarters of the Templars. So now you have Templars going to Europe back and forth, who own a lot of gold. And this is one of the things about gold and and its own person. I can't remember the exact chemical or physics word of it, but the capacity of gold to sense and to participate, because of course we are all sentient beings. Everything is, we've been treating the earth and its element, it's alive, right? So what happens with the gold is that when you're not treating it, you're giving it the respect, it multiplies, right? It multiplies the same way King Solomon, who was the guardian of the gold for these purposes, to give it to humanity when humanity was not ready to use it for greed anymore, right? So the Templars start going, to Jerusalem, from Jerusalem to Europe, bringing all these secrets, which was the knowledge from the Templars that's coming out finally, and the Templars are the messengers that are going back and forth between Jerusalem and Europe. Their gold multiplies, and it gets to a point that they literally need to put the gold to get a house for the gold because they travel and now they cannot carry the gold. So they need to house the gold. And that's how the first banking institution started. So the Templars, I think there was some kind of very low interest, which is the same that Nesara is talking about now, like something 2% or something like very minor, just to cover the expenses of the banking industry. But that's it. All the rest is to benefit humanity because all the riches belong to everybody. So it gets to a point that they create this institution, and now they have like an open channel with the royals in Europe and with the royals in Europe and the Pope. So they become very powerful because, of course, they are welcome. Everybody admire them. More gold, come Saint Germain. More gold, more. Oh my God, what do they do? It's like the alchemy of gold. They understand the alchemy of gold, right? Which comes from within, not with the gold itself. Those, when people talk about the bloodlines, I think the best way to describe it is how you perceive gold. Right?
Yeah.
So then what happens is that the Pope and the royals realize that these people are becoming not only very powerful, but very rich because the gold is growing. So now they have to guard against them because, you know, the black snake thought, you know, I have to kill it before it kills me, you know, because of course they think the gold, you know, the gold goes like that, you know. So then there is a prosecution against the Templars. And then they go underground. And they relocate. I think there is a time, I don't know exactly that part of the history, that Solo, that the King of Shiva and the Templars from Indonesia go to Jakarta and regroup again. But then in Europe, and this is one of the most fascinating parts about this story, is that in Europe, the ones that relocate, they relocate in the central mountains of Switzerland. And then they relocate in the northern of Europe. Scandinavian countries. Now you wonder why those societies are so advanced. Okay, so they relocate there and in Portugal. And many of the ones from Portugal, or most of them, moved to the United States. Now, that's prior. So then you have Mr. Rothschild around that time, because the banking industry was created, I think, in the year 900 or 1000, I think 1000. I'm not that sure, I think it's 900. So it was a long time, you know, that they did this until Rothschild comes and says, wow, that's pretty good. If they have a 2% across the globe, this banking institution created by the Templars, what we can do is hijack the institution and charge 8% to the royals when they need money or gold. It was, yeah, they still, yeah, there was some currency at that time already, okay? So when they need money or gold. So then the next thought is, and this is crucial, it's all we have to do is keep them fighting with each other, and we subsidize their wars. And we charge 8% and we pocket 6%. And now he puts his 5 children in every kingdom in Europe. And they take over the banking industry. Now, think about this. We're talking about debt slavery. We are you know, we've had the experience of debt slavery. We're the victims of victims. I hate to use the word, but that's where we are, right? Of debt slavery. Now, we are, if you think about this, debt slavery started with the royals, the kings and the queens. They were the first victims of debt slavery.
Oh, interesting.
So now you can understand what it was to walk in their shoes, because now you are a victim of debt slavery. And yes, a lot of riches, a lot of power, but in reality, they were all puppets, completely controlled by this machine that was making them fight with each other for profit. So when you see that, since then, you have the perfect equation, which is bank, war, war, bank. This is why I said in the beginning, if there's one thing, that has to be done, is to eradicate this idea of bank and war together, because we're not putting up with war anymore. We have repackaged, the war machine already in all possible ways. World wars, coup d'etat, all of them, civil wars. We're at the last straw now. Now we're paying mercenaries to keep wars. That tells you how much power they have.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay your fighters. I'm telling you, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened with the Templars is that, this is to me so fascinating. That then, of course, they decide, they try, they continue with this charade forever, war machine, war money machine, and they go through, all these wars, and I mean, and then they decide that okay, this is such a good business that we're going to, trickle down to the countries now, and then you have in 71, Nixon takes the dollar out of the silver and gold standard. And after that, if you go through every single country, you're going to find that we end up in 2001 with only 3 countries that don't own their own central banks. 3. Which are Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. That tells you how close we were to this, how close.
Are there any references that people can research to find out these banking histories or the origins in the way that you have just described it?
Yeah, there is a lot. There's YouTube videos, and I have a couple of. I can send it to you.
All right, I'll list it in the comments of the video.
Yeah, because it's necessary. To me, it was fascinating because my question was always, again, going to the root cause analysis.
Right.
My question is, it seems that the black snake, the black snake mentality, which is I'll kill you first before you kill me, without any consideration that in your mind was never the idea of killing them. That's kind of the mentality.
Yeah.
It feels like that, of course, that's a seed planted is fear, and they know how they have planted it and programmed it and done the whole thing. But what happens with those people is that they lost their inner child because they broke the trust of the inner child. Because of course, if you're a mother in the black snake syndrome, in the black snake mindset, you're going to teach your children to defend themselves so that it's survival, so that they are not killed first. If you believe in that, of course you have to abuse your children and treat them really bad so that they get it, that this is a cruel world and they have to, put up with this and develop defense mechanisms, right? So, it makes sense. It's not like, oh my God, how cruel you do that. Illuminati, you put a child at 2 years old without water, without food for 2 days in a dark room. Well, they have to prepare for the black snake world, I mean, it makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
So my question was always, if here we have this situation where, you know, where the inner child is disappeared, they don't have the capacity to create, and they don't have the psychic abilities. They are operating more like from the third chakra down kind of thing. You know, they are more operating from only the left brain, you know, not the right brain, to say it in another word, you know. So my question is, I remember I did an interview with Veruschka years ago, and she said this thing about England, you know, about the ley lines and the Irish people and all of that. She said, you know, in terms of the ley lines, they don't have the capacity to create energy nor to transmute energy. They only have the capacity to obstruct the energy.
Mm.
So my question was, who created the bank industry? Because here is the thing, that you have all these institutions that have been badmouthed, like the United Nations, like the Federal Reserve, like the World Bank, all of these institutions. Well, what is the purpose or the intention of those institutions? We know they have been contaminated. But what was the original purpose of these institutions? None of them, as we talked about now with the Templars, have been created by the people who think in the black snake code.
Mm.
They could not do that.
Mm.
It's been created by humanists who understand the capacity to create.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and they are humanists. Like the United Nations was created to completely eradicate war for the rest of our history. And look where we went. We went straight to the Cold War.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, that's really the shift now. And the part that's fascinating about this is that you have things like, for instance, when you look in the last years, you know, from 71 until 2001, you have 3 countries only, right, that don't own their own central bank and don't print their currency. Except for another group of countries beyond that, which are the Middle Eastern countries. So the question is, what is the difference between Middle Eastern countries that seems to require not a coup d'etat or a civil war, but literally a war to completely neutralize them? Because when you look at Iraq and Afghanistan and you know, and Libya, and you look at the destruction in those countries, you go, why is so lethal there? You know, they go to the Ukraine, they get a coup d'etat, you know, they get a military there, you know, that that is corrupted, takes over. They take the 30 pounds of gold from the country. Now they own their central bank. They go to Libya. They take the 140 tons of gold. They kill the man, but they destroy the infrastructure. Why? And the answer is it's because Muslims cannot die in death. I mean, the answer is written in the Quran.
Wow.
How ironic and how beautiful is that? You know?
I don't think people know this.
No, many people don't know that. And that's the whole problem with that. Because, and you might well say that the New World Order was not accomplished thanks to Muslims. Because they were going to fight it to the death, to the death. Because it's against their religion.
That's common sense for them, it sounds like.
Yeah. So see, this is the part that's totally fascinating.
Yeah.
Why are they the main enemy of humanity, made the main enemy? Because of the same reason.
Because they're not letting themselves be bullied, and their faith is stronger than the bully.
Exactly. All the rest of us, of all other religions, succumb to the colonial power. All of them. Shame on us. You know what I mean? But yeah, but for that you have to understand. It goes beyond just money. You understand that you cannot die in debt with anybody. You have to score your life before death in every possible way. It's beyond that. It's not just the money. So this is the part that, you know, that I'm so excited about, because it's happening. Finally happening, and it took a lot of effort and a lot of deaths and a lot of, you know, I always say this. How is it like? You know, because people don't understand what it means, you know, that some imperial entity comes to your central bank and own your country, you know? How does it translate to the politician or to the president of the country? Well, you know, the perfect example, and this is, you know, we know because we are operating like the mafia, you know. The perfect example is that you are in a little town in Colombia, and you are, you know, and you have a little store, and you're, of course, not even, I mean, right there on poverty level, and you have this little building where you have 2 beds in the back where you sleep with your kids, and you sell the Cokes, Coca-Colas, and, you know, and all of that. And then all of a sudden one day, the sicario from the cartel, the drug cartel, comes and says, "Sir, starting tomorrow, you're going to give me 30% of your income." And why? Well, because if not, I'm going to kill that little girl that's playing around there. You know, and if not, you know, we're here to protect you, and you have to pay us, you know, all this for that. And this is happening in Mexico and Colombia and little towns. It's happening. It's been happening now with the you know, with the marijuana being illegal. Thank God it's going to change, but it's been happening, you know. So then, you know, before you know, this person is owning your life, your pocket, you know, raping your children, you know, all of this. In the micro, it's the exact same thing of how a politician would feel. Politician, I said. I'm not trying to justify corruption with this. I'm just saying that if you were the president of Paraguay or Bolivia in the year 74, you know, and they came, and you know, the black snake came to you and said, okay, you know, you have to give us your central bank because now you're in debt with us because we invested in this and that, and now you're out to here in debt, so your country is mine practically. So,
yeah,
you know, I'll take your central bank. And the guy says, well, what if I don't do it? And they say, well, if you don't, you're going to make a lot of money with this first, but if you don't do it, you know, you want to have, this is going to happen anyway. We'll kill you, or we'll do a coup d'etat, or we'll do whatever. It's going to happen anyway. Do you want to have more deaths in your conscience? Besides, we're going to kill your family, not you. I mean, this is the way it operates. It operates on fear, period. It's like, it's...
And you're never going to hear that part in the news of what the actual blackmail is. So we only see the consequences or the actions, but we don't see all the psychological and emotional blackmail.
Yeah. So it's exactly the same thing. So what happens, like, for instance, you have a, you know, the beautiful part about this, and this is why I'm so excited in the work I'm doing, you know, actually being part of Swissindo right now, it's that this entire, you know, work underground, you know, to take over, you know, to take back our house, you know, our home, our families, our kids, you know, it's been, it's okay. Last year, 17th of August, 70th anniversary of the UN. That means the contract is over, which means that, you know, whatever contamination that went on in the UN will not be tolerated anymore. It's change, you know, it's going to change. So it goes back to Indonesia, because the UN were actually signed by, you know, Sukarno, Indonesia also. And he actually funded, you know, $500 billion at the time for the reconstruction of the world after World War II, you know. So you have that, September. Then you have, in December, 192 countries of the UN agreeing to Paris agreements, signing Paris agreements, which basically is the same, you know, the same idea of Agenda 2030, which is for peace and sustainability, and you know, to change the financial system, to unite the military, and to eradicate poverty, of course, and to stop environmental destruction. You know, 4 things. This is the 4 things that we need to do, and that's the agenda of BRICS countries, of Agenda 2030, and now Paris agreements. And so you have Paris agreements, the 192 countries of the UN signing for this. This is the first time that we've united like that at the country level. You know, it was a moment in history that everything opened. It was amazing, because they're not afraid anymore. You know, the thing is that it happened the same way, the way it happens in the little town, you know, in the little village. You know, you have your store, the other guy has the store, everybody that's paying the tax to the cartel is going to unite. One day is going to unite and say, sorry, you know, we're not paying you anymore. Kill us all now. We're all in the major square here. Kill us. Come kill us all now if you can. You know, it's over. And this is what happened in the world on December 12, 2015. And when you say the 192, we have 234 countries. The fact that it is the NATO countries, the ones that are in the UN, you know, it's even more fascinating, because it's the first time in history that we have been united like that. So, you know, from then to now they ratified Paris agreements on the 4th of, they launched Paris agreements on the 4th of November, and they ratified a month before, in October, I think, 2nd of October. So, you know, it's exactly what the first royals said when, you know, when they hijacked the banking industry. All we have to do is fighting with each other, you know, so you can tell, you know, when people say, how is it possible that the queen has signed the papers? Or, well, think about it. In 1827, the World Fund was created by Count Saint-Germain. And in 1850, the collateral accounts were set. You were asking me before about, this. Well, can you imagine how eager the royals were to get rid of this after 1,000 years of debt slavery?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing we have in common, the common man, the only thing we have in common with the royals.
Interesting.
Think about that.
Yeah.
It's important, because, to agree to disagree, you go to the 1% you have in common, and this is a huge commonality because now so when people say, oh, I cannot believe it because they are all good or they are all bad or they're this, you have to, being Yeltsin in his time in history and giving away his central bank after his country's economy was destroyed, broke his heart. But they all came back. They all worked underground to come back. Same in Indonesia, especially in Indonesia.
So what do you feel like people who are really suffering from being in debt right now and, just working so hard to get out of all the bills they have to pay and feeling hopeless, what would you recommend to people right now? To get educated, to have hope that they have some choices? What are some proactive things you could share?
Well, right now we are creating a campaign. We're working on campaigns to train people how to do it, and second, to facilitate the documents. So if you have a debt, and and we're having trainings as we speak, so people can actually come to us, and we tell them how to do it, and you can send by mail, by post mail, registered mail, your statement from your debt institution, whether it's a bank or financial institution, whatever it is, student loans, whatever. You put your papers there, your statement, and then you put the certificates, the debt liberation certificates that we have issued and that are already implemented. And what I'm saying is it's official or extra official. We're in that process of transition right now. But the thing is that we're starting this now because in Indonesia, the 6 main banks, including the Bank of Indonesia right now, have accepted, have acknowledged the debt relief. And the way...
Have you seen this in the American news? Has this been reported at all of what's happening in Indonesia?
I don't think yet, but I think it's close because it came from the Supreme Court of Indonesia first, which is really important. Now what we were waiting is the president to do the announcement, but you have to understand how the bank industry works, okay? So since it is a monopoly, around the world, they all depend on the World Bank, which was another original institution to help humanity, not to mess with humanity. But anyway, so all of these banks that are engaged in usury are connected to the World Bank. So with the reformatting of the United Nations since last year, now we have a completely different approach to all of this. So the banks So the banks now, the problem is that they are kind of like obstructing the process because that's what they do best. But in Indonesia right now has been, all of them have acknowledged the debt, but they have not signed yet. You know, it's kind of a process. So it's a matter of time, but in the meantime, everybody can send the certificates because the certificates have all the codes and all the laws and all the signatures and all the agreements that, because at the same time, this is a gift to humanity, so we should be able to go and take the gift, you know, take the gift. And it's simple. So you send it in registered mail, and we explain how to do it and what are the documents, and give the documents to send to the banks. And it's been a long work, you know, to have all the documents ready and excuse me, and you know, it's been a lot of work, and it's beautiful because now, and I think that, you know, instead of doing nothing, you know, it's a great, you know, it's like the idea is to really claim your own sovereignty, you know, your own sovereignty, and the idea really is about self-governance, you know. We don't need between between God and man, and we don't need, you know, banks to dictate what to do with our energy, our time.
So what would your highest vision be if you imagine all the U.S. residents paying off their personal debts and what their life choices could be after that? Like, what does it mean for you, and what would you like to see in the world?
Well, if payments 1 through 11, after the acknowledgement of the debt, there's restitution. And restitution is up to, now I feel more comfortable talking about numbers, you know, than in the beginning. It was too much in code, like not warmed up yet. Anyway, now we have the restitution, which is 2 billion rupiah, and that amounts to around $144,000. But that's in the old currency, the petrodollar currency value, and that has been also adjusted. So I'm not sure. They say that it looks like with the exchange of the revalue would be something like 2 or $3 million, which is what the banking industry will pay people for restitution for the money they already took from them, because it was illegal in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have payments 1 through 11, which is basically, you know, your own inheritance, you know, your own trust. You get your own trust, which is $6 million. And this is not the only trust. When the shift happens, there is many people, you know, there's Nesara, there's many things coming and happening at the same time. It's going to be kind of like, I feel that it's going to be interesting, because it's going to be kind of like the frenzy we have seen with the banks, you know, to take money away from the people and all that marketing and all that thing. Money, you know, feeling like an ATM machine, you know, to the opposite, you know, to, oh, here is more money for you, you know, like it's going to be so amazing because it's going to change the paradigm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is not that everybody is a millionaire. The idea is that we end up without needing money, because we have all the technologies out there. You know, we have those technologies anyway.
Right. There might be more access to other options that don't have to be so cost prohibitive, and also not drain our natural resources.
Exactly.
So it's getting really dark where you are. Can you turn a light on? We have about 5 more minutes to wrap up our little conversation here.
You know, my experience is that this is it's a lot of information altogether anyway, you know? So
it is, but it's important to really understand the history. I mean, I don't even understand it, but just to see how far back it goes and all the implications of all the different, you know, societal structures. And this is a real blessing. And what would you wish for people to have a shift in their heart with, that they can also align with coming out of that debt slavery mentality that they're living to work?
I think the most important thing really is to restore trust. It's trust in ourselves to kind of manifest the trust, our own trusts. You know, we're talking about collateral accounts being established in 1950 by all the kings and the queens, you know, by everybody who held riches in the world,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So to me, it's trust. It's about trust. I think the moment that the way to plant the seed of fear is to break. I mean, the reason to plant the seed of fear is to break the trust in every way. You know, from the money supply or your, you know, or everything else. It's kind of funny, but it's trust. It really is. You know, it's to restore trust. It's get rid of the black snake, you know, who cannot trust even, you know,
Mm-hmm.
its own shadow.
Yeah. So go ahead.
So you know, all the information is in Swissindo.net, and yes, you know, we are doing trainings for the liberation, so we should be able to, you know, to get these documents as in, you know, this is what happened in Indonesia. People came on the streets and they came to the banks, and you know, Jodi's following that. I wish she was here because she's following that so beautifully. But you know, but they've been completely supported by the police and the military, you know, and that's what is about to happen in the West also, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine.
It would be a miracle. So I believe in miracles. So it's great to be holding the space for this to unfold. Well, I'm so grateful that you gave us a little bit of a sightseeing tour of some highlights for some inner understanding. And I'm so grateful that you are sharing this and that you're very passionate about this mission. And I'm so excited to help spread the word about this.
Thank you so much, Veruschka. Yeah, I love it. And I am very excited and very, very grateful to you too. Yes, I think it's the work of so many people, you know. Now it's not sustainable anymore. So it's almost like it cannot be contained anymore, you know. It will explode in you know, all beautiful ways.
Yeah. Did your mother give you the name Luz?
Yeah, her name was Maria Luz, and mine is Luz Maria. We have the same name.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect. Light, and my name means truth. So
I love that. Yes, I never thought about that. That's so true. I love it. Wow.
I wonder what names there are out there that mean trust. That's going to be very interesting.
Yes, by all means.
Yeah. All right, my dear. Well, I will be having links that you share with me in the body of the video content for people to relate to and reach.
Fantastic. I'm going to put all of the history about the bank industry and all of that.
Okay. Well,
Because
much
it's really,
aloha and
hello.
mahalo and blessings to you the rest of this year. Bye.